Good morning all. In the last video lecture we have discussed the first part of different types of defects which is taking place in any engineering materials. Okay, and the total defects can be classified as 0-dimensional defect, 1-dimensional defect, 2-dimensional defect and 3-dimensional defects, in which we have discussed the 0-dimensional defect, which is also called as point defects. Okay, the various classification which came are interstitiality, vacancy, impurity atoms and Frenkel defects, Schottky defects, which commonly found in ceramic materials, etc. In this session we will be discussing the second classification or second kind of defects, which is called as one-dimensional defect, also called as dislocation. So commonly it is called as dislocations. One-dimensional defects also called as linear defects. Okay, basically there are two types of dislocations or linear defect. First one is edge dislocation and second one is screw dislocations, or we can say edge line defect, also we can call it as screw line defects. And as a third category we can say as a mixed defect, which is actually a combination of edge dislocation and screw dislocation. As the name indicate, like these kind of defects, it can takes place or it can create an effect along a line or a linear fashion. First we will discuss with the edge dislocation, the first kind of defect in the second classification, which is the linear defects, or the one-dimensional defect, which is the edge dislocation. Edge dislocation is actually, it is the presence of a plane of atoms or a half plane of atoms which is terminating within a crystal lattice. An extra portion of atoms which is normally not a complete plane but an extra plane which is terminating in halfway or midway within the crystal system, which is called as edge dislocation. As in the figure you can see, in the crystal system we can see one plane, extra plane of atoms, which is not complete throughout the crystal system or complete throughout the lattice which is under consideration, but it is terminating within this particular extra plane of atom. When it is observed inside a crystal lattice, we will call it as edge dislocation. And we can see, depending upon whether it is placed upon top position of the crystal lattice or depending upon the bottom position of the crystal lattice, there is another classification for the edge dislocation. So basically edge dislocation is the presence of an extra plane of atom which is terminating within the crystal lattice. And another important term which is associated with the dislocation is the dislocation line, or the line on which this dislocation is acting. Actually, in the case of edge dislocation, the dislocation line, it is the line along the end of the extra plane of the atoms, which is called as the dislocation line. The line which is the extra, which is at the edge or at the bottom portion of the extra plane of atom, which is the dislocation line. Okay, and another important feature we can observe is like the effect of this edge dislocation or this extra plane of atom. When it is introduced to an ordered crystal lattice, we can say it will create certain effect over the crystal lattice. The main effect is like it can create a stress field around the other atoms. Okay, so it is actually tends to create a compressive force around these neighboring atoms in which this extra plane of atom is placed. And this effect of this edge dislocation, it will be reduced when we are moving away from this edge dislocation. When we are moving in the both sides, if you are moving along in the crystal lattice to a longer distance, the effect is getting minimized and it will be nullified if you are moving away. Okay, and another important term associated with the dislocations, not even the edge, for the edge dislocation or whether the screw dislocation or the mixer dislocation, we can say it is the Berger vector. Berger vector is one particular vector quantity which is used to define the magnitude as well as the direction of the dislocation. Okay, so one important feature is how this Berger vector it is oriented with respect to the dislocation line. We have already discussed the dislocation line. For the particular case of edge dislocation, this dislocation line is actually it is positioned at the bottom of the edge dislocation plane, okay, which is moving inside. So it is situated along the bottom edge of the dislocation extra plane, okay, which is the dislocation line. In the case of edge dislocation, this particular Berger vector, it is actually positioned perpendicular to the dislocation line. So we can see how it comes as a perpendicular for the case of edge dislocation, but this point is very important. For the case of edge dislocation, the Berger vector, it is getting perpendicular to the actual edge dislocation line. Okay, for the sake of understanding this phenomenon, this particular edge dislocation line and the case of the Berger vector, we are consider a particular crystal lattice. We are considering a particular set of crystal lattice which is shown as the cubic structures, in which each point actually represents a lattice point. We are considering a crystal lattice, and if we are considering an extra plane of atom, you can see on the left side, if you are observing the figure, we can see a particular crystal lattice in which we can find an extra plane, which is terminating. It is not throughout the material, it is terminating within the lattice. So that particular extra plane, it is terminating within, it is not completely throughout. So for finding the Berger vector, we are considering a particular point, a particular starting point. So it need not be the starting point need not be the extra plane of atom. We will be considering a point which is neighboring to that particular extra plane. So we will be, for the sake, we will be considering one particular point, and we will be moving equal unit to downwards. So we have considered a starting point which is the leftmost point, okay, which is the starting point which is considered. From that we are moving 1 2 3 4 units downwards, and then we are moving an equal number of units towards the right side. You can observe 1 2 3 4, we have moved 4 units towards the right side. Again we are moving the 4 units upward, 1 2 3 4, and again we are moving 4 units towards the left side. So first 4 units we have moved downwards, second 4 units towards right side, then 4 units upward, and finally 4 units towards the left side. So actually we are supposed to reach the initial starting point if it is a perfect crystal, or atoms are arranged in a crystal in the perfect way, or we have the complete planes with orderly arrangement of atoms. But in this case we can see, when we are again returning by moving 4 units towards the left, we can see we are not reaching the starting point. Again we have to move one more unit towards the left side. That particular 1 unit which we are moving to reach the initial position, that particular unit is the magnitude of the Berger vector, or we can say it is the magnitude of the edge dislocation, and the direction in which we are moving, which is actually the direction of the Berger vector. That particular vector quantity is the Berger vector of the edge dislocation. So now we know our direction of the Berger vector, and also we know our direction of the dislocation line. It is actually acting along the edge of the extra n plane, okay, extra plane of the atoms. So we can observe that the edge of the extra plane of the atom, which is actually a dislocation line, it is perpendicular to the actual edge dislocation Berger's vector. So Berger vector is perpendicular to the edge dislocation line, which is one important point in the case of edge dislocation. In the case of edge dislocation, the Berger vector is actually perpendicular to dislocation line. The figure also contains screw dislocation that we will discuss later. Okay, next point is the second classification of the dislocation, which is the screw dislocation. Okay, edge dislocation already we have discussed. It is due to the extra plane of atom present inside the material. The screw dislocation actually takes place by a shear force. So it is due to a shear force applied, which can produce a distortion or a twisting effect over the crystal lattice. We can see when we are applying a shear force, the total crystal lattice, it is getting shifted, or it is getting sheared along a particular plane. Okay, the upper front region of the crystal is shifted by 1 atomic distance when we are applying a shear force to the right when we are relating to the lower portion. So we can have 2 portions for the crystal system. Actually the square points actually represents the lattice points. For the ease of understanding, we have just considered like square points. It is actually represents each lattice point. So when we are observing the figure, we can see when we are applying a shear force, the bottom portion the top portion is getting twisted towards right side by 1 unit related to the bottom portion. You can observe the twisted portion in the figure. Okay, the screw dislocation derives its name actually from the spiral or helical path which is traced around this particular dislocation line. So that particular line which is actually passing through that plane of that particular dislocation or that twisting is actually the dislocation line for the screw dislocation. Okay, for the case of Berger vector, it is actually parallel to the dislocation line. That observation we can see from this particular figure. In this figure, we have already discussed the part of edge dislocation. Now we are considering the another dislocation. We can see that there is a shearing action which is taking place in the particular crystal system, in which we can see the bottom portion and the top portion. There is a relative twisting, or there is a relative difference in the top portion when compared to the bottom, which is due to a shearing action. So as a result, we can observe a sheared plane in which one atomic distance the screw dislocation has taken place. That particular direction in which that arrow mark is placed, which is actually the Berger vector for the dislocation line, which is the screw dislocation line. So we can say for the screw dislocation, Berger vector is positioned along that plane in which that shearing has taken place. So again, the same concept, we have to find the magnitude of the Berger vector and also the direction of the Berger vector. For that, we are starting from a particular point. Okay, you can start from the point which is immediately above where the twisting has taken place. From that, we are, or a point which is very much low, we can consider a point which is 2 units downward to that shearing plane. So from that, we are starting. If you are moving equal distance upward, you can, and then you are moving the equal distance towards right, then you are moving equal distance towards bottom, then again you are moving equal distance towards right. We can say that we will not come to the same position. We have to move an extra unit to reach the same position. That extra unit is actually the magnitude of the Berger vector. So in the case of screw dislocation also, in the proposed figure, we can see there is 1 unit magnitude of dislocation taken place along the twisted direction, which is actually a screw dislocation of 1 unit magnitude, and the Berger vector for the screw dislocation, it is actually parallel to the dislocation line or the plane along which the dislocation has taken place. So the two category of dislocation, first one is the edge dislocation, second one is the screw dislocation. Edge dislocation is the presence of an extra plane of atom in the lattice, and in the case of edge dislocation, the Berger vector is perpendicular to the dislocation line. Second one is the screw dislocation. In screw dislocation, a shearing action takes place related to the crystal lattice. So material is getting twisted or it is getting sheared. So such dislocation is called as screw type dislocation, and in the case of screw dislocation, Berger vector is parallel to the dislocation line. So that is regarding the one-dimensional defects or the linear defect, or also called as dislocation. So you have to remember, like if it is mentioned in the question like it is dislocation, it is actually a linear defect or one-dimensional defect. So the third classification of defects in the material, it will comes as the two-dimensional defects, or also called as surface defect, and another name for the surface defect is the interfacial defects. So again, it is having little classification which is little much easier to understand, which is external defect. It comes under external defects, grain boundary defect, twin boundary defect, stacking fault defect, phase boundaries, and ferromagnetic domain walls, which are different classification of these two-dimensional defect or the surface defect. Starting with the first surface defect, which is the external defect. So external defect are actually the external surface that are found in any crystal structure which is terminating. Okay, so which is the exposed surface or the external surface of any material which is exposed to the other environmental condition, okay, or the atmosphere. That particular surface is having higher reactivity, or what we say, it is having the highest rate of exposure when compared to the different atoms which is present inside. So atoms present at the top portion of the any material will be having more exposure to the environmental condition than the other atoms. And another important feature is they are only bonded to the atoms at the below. They don't have any bonded atoms above them. So the surface atoms are not bonded to maximum number of nearest atoms. So they have higher energy states and they have higher reactivity. When we are comparing the inner atoms in the material, they have relatively inert in their interior positions. So because of their higher surface energy, to reduce the surface energy, the material tends to minimize the total surface area, but it is not possible because it is a solid. So they are having, and again the solids are very much mechanically rigid. So the reactivity of this external surface is much high. So that particular surface normally we used to consider it as a defect, or which comes under this particular classification. And the second type of surface defect is the we can say the grain boundary defects. Grain boundaries we already know, during solidification we have discussed. It is the boundaries where the solidification from different regions during this homogeneous or heterogeneous nucleation will get meet, and the further movement of the atoms or expansion of the atoms or the dendritic growth is restricted. So it actually has the boundary formed which separates two grains, okay, in the microscopic nature or the microscopic scale. And we already discussed the classification as low angle grain boundary and has also the high angle grain boundary for that particular what we say the grain boundary. So we have the high angle grain boundary and the low angle grain boundary. Actually these grain boundaries have highest reactivity and they can be considered as a surface defect. So high angle grain boundary you already know, when the angle of misalignment is less than or greater than 10 degree, we used to call it as high angle grain boundary. If the misorientation is less than 10 degree, we will classify it under small angle grain boundary. Another two types of surface defects which are commonly observed is the tilt boundary and twist boundary. Okay, we already know the linear defects, which is edge dislocation as well as the screw dislocation. A group of edge dislocations, when it is combined and it is getting oriented in such a way that it is getting aligned and it forms like a surface, we will call it as a tilt boundary. A boundary like surface formed when a group of edge dislocations are aligned. Okay, twist boundary is again it is such alignment of screw dislocations, a group of screw dislocation or an array of screw dislocation, it is getting aligned like a boundary. We will call it as twist boundary. Okay, they are not actually boundary, but they can be considered as a boundary. Actually they are linear defect, but a group of linear defects which when they are aligned in such a way that it is forming like a tilt boundary or it is forming like a twist boundary. The actual observation of a tilt and twist boundary is projected in the figure. Okay, and another type of surface defect is twin boundary. Okay, twin boundary, this term twin boundary, it is already known. It is twinning is one of the deformation mechanism in the material. Okay, just like the slip is the primary deformation mechanism, twinning is the secondary deformation mechanism which is observed in any kind of material. As in the case of twinning, we know the twinning normally takes place along a particular plane called as twin plane, in which we know the atoms are getting oriented in a different fashion, like a mirror image of the previous orientation. So that particular plane on which this twinning phenomenon takes place, it is called as the twin plane, which is also called as twin boundary. So that specific plane which is creating that lattice symmetry, we will call it as a twin boundary, which is again considered as a defect. The twinning takes place mainly it is taking place by two fashion. One is due to mechanical twins. When we are applying a mechanical shear force to the material will deform or it will reoriented along a twin plane to a mirror image like fashion. The atoms are getting reoriented enough to form a twin plane. Okay, or the twinning process will take place when we are applying a mechanical shear force. The twin result from the atomic displacement which are produced from a applied mechanical shear force is called as mechanical twins. Mechanical twins are commonly observed in BCC material as well as hexagonal closed packed material. Another type of twinning or the another possibility of formation of twinning is due to annealing twin. Okay, the formation of twinning taking place during a heat treatment process. Annealing is a heat treatment process which we will discuss later. Okay, annealing twins are typical types of twinning formed in material when it is subjected to a heat treatment, and it is commonly observed in face-centered cubic crystal materials. Then another type of surface defect or two-dimensional defect is stacking fold defect. We know the different arrangement of atoms. Stacking actually represents the arrangement of atoms, layer by layer arrangement of atoms, and we know the classification of stacking, which is AB stacking and ABC stacking, commonly found in crystalline materials. So if there is an interruption of the any one particular plane, or if any one of plane is absent from the stacking sequence, we can call it as a defect. For example, if you are considering a stacking like ABC stacking, and instead of what we say, but if one atom is missing from that particular sequence, for example ABC, then AB, the C is missing, and again ABC, which means the layer of the C atoms it is missing from the stacking sequence, we can again consider that as a surface defect. Okay, next one is the phase boundary, formation of the multiple phase in the same material. Then is the ferromagnetic domain wall. In certain region the property varies, the magnetizing property vary, which can also be observed under the surface defects. And the last classification of the defects in material is the volume defects or three-dimensional defects, which is also called as bulk defects. These are the defects which are mainly occurs due to the manufacturing process or the processing route. Okay, for example, in the case of casting, or in the case of powder metallurgy, or in the case of forging, or in the case of forming, which are the different primary manufacturing routes, the defects which is commonly observed in these routes are commonly classified under bulk defects or the volume defects. So we can say the casting defects, the extrusion defect, the forging defects, rolling defects all comes under bulk or volume defects. The common examples are porosity, inclusion, cracks, etc. Okay, a few of these particular defects, the volume bulk defects, which can be observed from our naked eye, it is projected in the figure. One is the casting blowholes porosity, which is happening due to the gas entrapment during the melting and pouring process. Shrinkage cavity due to improper riser positioning. Non-metallic inclusions or the foreign impurity atoms present in the material. Cracks which is taking place during solidification due to uneven heating or cooling. The thermal mismatch, the constant expansion or contraction due to the different stresses developed during the manufacturing route. Weld defects, casting defects, shrinkage defects, all will comes under such category. Okay, all this comes under the third classification, which is the volume defects. So as a whole, if you are considering any material, we can classify the total defects taking place in the material into primarily 4 classes, which can be, first one is the point defects, which is the also called as zero-dimensional defects. Some examples are vacancy, inclusion, interstitiality, self-interstitiality, or also we can say substitutional interstitiality, as we discussed in the last class. Second classification comes is the linear defect, which is also called as dislocation, also called as line defects, and which is the one-dimensional defect. Third classification is the two-dimensional defect, or also called as surface defect. Okay, and the fourth classification is the three-dimensional defect, or the bulk defect, or the volume defects. We have discussed different classification of the defects which is taking place in crystalline materials. Okay, thank you.